Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew McFarland.
And I'm Eddie Estrada.
And this is Highbrow.
Lowbrow.
Episode 2.
Dose up in here.
I'm really excited that we made it to the second episode.
We made it past one episode to the second episode.
Yeah, this is not just like a fleeting project. Like, we're actually serious about this podcast and these movies.
We are. We hope you subscribe to us wherever we are.
Yes, we had a great time talking about Eddie Murphy last week.
Yes.
I think he was the perfect person to kind of start us off.
And before we get into Sandy B this week,
yeah,
I need to know how your week went with your highbrow moment and your lowbrow moment.
Oh, you got it. Okay, let me think. Okay. I actually have a feeling the highbrow moment is the same.
Okay.
But Interview with a Vampire on AMC Plus. Oh my God. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Anne Rice is a famous novelist of vampires, witches, and scary lore. And her most famous stories are about Lestat the Vampire, which are chronicled in the Interview with the Vampire Chronicles.
Yes.
And there's that famous movie with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. Is it Tom Cruise?
Yeah, it's
and
Tom
Kirsten
Cruise,
Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst,
Well, AMC Plus is producing a sort of anthology series on their platform. And it's the same sort of Anne Rice Interview with a Vampire, but it's from the point of view of a different character. And the first 2 episodes came out on Sunday, and they are so freaking good. I know it's another streaming service to subscribe to and pay money for.
Well, not for everyone. I mean, if you have Shudder, you already have Shudder already. My horror fans out there, it's just $1 more, and you get Shudder too. So
well, great. I didn't even know that.
AMC Plus, just for those who know.
Yeah, not to be confused with AMC, the movie theater. It's the
Which
network that has Walking Dead and Mad Men and all that stuff. So that was my highbrow. My lowbrow, I guess I'll just go with Bros.
Okay.
Bros was my lowbrow.
Yeah, you were dragging your feet to see it.
Okay. So something that I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to get everybody else to do, is not write off a movie, a TV show, a piece of theater, not write off any piece of art without seeing it, hearing it, viewing it, just digesting it in person for yourself. And I will be the first to say that I was being a little bitch, and I was like, oh, Billy Eichner, oh, this movie. I was throwing a bunch of preconceived notions on it, which is so not fair. And I'm glad that I got over my own BS and went and saw this movie because Bros, it's fantastic.
It's really cute.
It is so fantastic. It is a great LGBTQ story for today. I see it setting up and opening a lot of doors for more in-depth and even better, brighter LGBTQ stories to be made. So I highly recommend people go see it, pump up that box office so that we make more movies that are just as good, if not better than this, and that explore other shades of our group, because we're very, just like the movie talks about, we're a very big group. We're very diverse. But this might set us up to make more movies like that. So please go see it if you haven't. I thought it was great.
I did have a moment where I saw myself on screen when Billy Eichner asks Luke McFarlane, what's your favorite movie? And he goes, The Hangover. And he's like, you can't be serious. And he's like, oh, no, I was just joking. But he's not joking.
Very, very, very you.
Except my favorite movie is Clueless.
Right.
So, so everyone has their own choice.
Now, I'm really, because I could have sworn your highbrow was going to be the same as mine, at the least. But what's your highbrow moment?
So my highbrow moment is a little film called Barbarian that I saw.
We
saw this week.
Oh my God.
And actually both of my movies are horror movies. So Barbarian is a very it's considered horror, but it's more considered highbrow horror.
I would agree with that. It was very well done.
The idea behind it, once you realize what the movie's actually about, I was upset at the end. I was sad, and for reasons you might, if you watch the movie, you'll understand. But it was very highbrow. It was a very highbrow horror.
Yeah.
Now, my lowbrow was Smile, which was a lowbrow horror movie, but it was so good.
So good.
It tricked me. I turned to Matthew at one point in the movie and I was like, this is how it's supposed to end, blah, 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 the whole thing. And then they flipped it on me and I was like, well, they got me. And it's exactly what I want from a horror movie. I want to leave it feeling unsettled.
Yes.
Any movie, any horror movie, horror movies do not need to have good endings. They want to make you feel like you're still in danger when you leave the theater.
Yes.
That is a testament to a great horror film.
Agreed. And they took, and again, I don't want to spoil anything, but they took a concept that we've seen before
Yes.
in other films, but it's so perfect for today.
Yes.
It talks about an issue that is very prevalent today in our culture and our
Yes.
society. Highly recommend Smile. So I'm
was-
so glad you brought that up
yeah.
because I was thinking about that one, but I figured Smile would be your lowbrow, so I was like, I'll give him that.
Well, I mean,
Actually, 3 of our 4 are all horror based.
I'm in a horror
is
kick.
October.
Yeah, you know me. I watch a horror movie a day in October. That's a podcast and a video for another time.
Yeah.
But I've been watching some really, really good horror. If I'm going to throw some other highbrow in there.
Oh, go for it. Might as well throw out suggestions.
Just on Shudder, there's a lot of really good things. I mean, Lowbrow Sissy was really fun to watch if you're into
I
that.
heard good things about that.
Then there was one, and Speak No Evil. Ooh, Speak No Evil and The Watcher. If you can watch any 2 horror films on Shudder or AMC Plus if you have it, check out The Watcher. Fantastic. Another movie that made me feel very unsettled. Another kind of
You know what movie
situation.
I've never seen before that they just remade on Hulu that I hear is fantastic is Hellraiser.
Yes. Well, that comes
So-
out, I think, tomorrow.
So I'm going to probably watch that this week because I haven't seen the original, but I want to see this one.
Okay, well, I'm going to make you watch the original, and then we'll watch the new one, too, because the original, Hellraiser is a classic. Pinhead, come on.
I know, but
I was terrified of Pinhead
finally
when I was
they've made
younger.
a sequel that's worthy of the show, is what people are saying. Or
I'm
the
excited.
movie.
But yeah, horror. We'll get into that later in this month.
So, okay. I'm so excited.
So am I.
Sandra Bullock.
Sandy B, my girl.
Sandy B.
Sandy B.
She is one of my favorite actors. I think she's globally like the
People love
world's
her.
favorite actor. Like she's been in so many incredible films. Let's just do a little bit of background on her.
Okay.
Real quick.
You know the history. You're the film historian.
Right. So basically, Sandra Bullock kind of blew up when she starred in the action film Demolition Man in 1993. That paired with Speed in 1994 really, boom, jettisoned her into like stardom. And after that, in the 90s, she was like the 90s queen. While You Were Sleeping, Hope Floats, The Net, and A Time to Kill. All within, I think, like a couple years of each other. Like she just...
Classics. All around.
And then the 2000s, we get like Miss Congeniality, we get 2 Weeks Notice, we
Classic.
get The Heat, we
Classic.
get Ocean's 8.
The Heat.
In like the 20s and the 2010s, we get like all these great comedies. But the film that we're going to talk about today, well, there's 2. The highbrow film we're going to talk about today is the 2013 Oscar-winning. It's one of my favorite movies. I think it's the sci-fi epic Gravity. And then our lowbrow film. What is our lowbrow film this week?
All About Steve.
Yes, 2009 comedy. And we're going to dissect both of them today.
We have lots to talk about because
There's a lot to talk about.
because
with both of
I
these.
just want to say we'll get into it, but All About Steve, I might have cried. I definitely did cry. You
And-
walked in on me crying.
I did, and let me just say, we'll get to All About Steve second. We'll start with the highbrow, and then we'll go to the lowbrow. I will say though, with All About Steve, just off the bat, is there's a lot of merit. There's a lot of nuggets in that film that I get why it was made, and I get why Sandra Bullock did it.
Yeah.
But I think it missed the mark. But we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. But let's start with Gravity.
Okay, Gravity. All right. Well, So since we're starting with Gravity, I want you to tell me what the plot was.
Okay.
What was the plot?
So first and foremost, this is not a drama. This is a horror film. I was like, I watch a lot of horror, as we've discussed on this
Yes.
podcast and in real life. And I like horror because it spooks me, but I know I'm good. At the end of the day, like I know I could be anything. Throw me Mike Myers, throw me Jason, I could take it on.
Yes.
Put me in space,
No.
bitch, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
I was stressed. I forgot how stressful the film was, and I was even more. I
I'm
was
like
stressed.
even like tight in the chest talking about it because I think I texted you and I said I hate you for making me watch this movie.
You did.
I think it's why I didn't hit my sleep goal last night because
No.
I was still
Oh
I had
my
so
God.
much adrenaline and cortisol in my system. I just couldn't stay down. But Gravity is a film about a group of astronauts. I said that really silly. And they're trying to fix like the space station or something. I don't know the details. There was a lot of words in the beginning that I was like, whoop, this just all is science. And I consider myself
but that's
a
the basic
scientist.
gist. Yes. Okay.
And there's a like a bunch of debris coming toward where they're working, and they get the information a little bit too late, and this debris sends everything haywire, and these people are just floating in space. And let me tell you, if I know anything about space, I'm like, why can't they just move? And there's like no gravity, so you can't really like use wind, or there's no wind or air, so you can't use anything
There's no sound,
to like.
there's no nothing.
In space, no one can hear you scream. Aliens, that's a great space movie, but that's different because I'm like, I can beat, but I can't beat, huh? They're two different things.
Totally. So
that's what gravity's about.
What happens when? Well, there's a little bit more. Like, how does it end?
Oh, you want me to tell the whole movie? Okay.
Yeah, wait. Tell me what
okay,
happens.
so yeah, so like all this stuff happens. They're floating in space. It's George Clooney and Sandra Bullock.
What a pair.
And I mean,
What a pair.
My favorite was when she's like spinning in space and he finally grabs her and she's like, and he's like, I know you haven't noticed how dangerously good looking I am, but try to stop staring. And I
It's
was
the
like,
perfect role for him. It really is. The charming, like,
yeah,
leader.
astronaut.
Yeah.
You trust him, but he's kind of, Sandra is doing, I was very mad at her at this movie. This is another movie where I was very frustrated with the person that I'm supposed to be on the side of. Like Effie in Dreamgirls, I was so mad at Sandra for like most of the movie. And because everything she does, there's no sense of urgency to everything that she does in this movie.
She can only go as fast as she can. She's in zero gravity. She can't like move as like.
George had way more urgency
Because
than
he's
Sandra
a trained
did.
astronaut and she's only been training for 6 months.
Yeah, but who goes into space after 6 months? Pete Davidson?
Well, no. We find out that she suffered a great loss in her life.
So she takes just 6 months to go to space?
No, we'll continue with the plot and I'll kind of get into what.
So basically, George Clooney has to sacrifice himself to like get the energy or like to make sure that Sandra doesn't get pulled off into space as well, so they both die. So he's like, I'm gonna let you go, and he's like, you should see the sunrise from this side. I'm like, wow, what a hero. And so then Sandra has to figure everything out, and she doesn't know anything, and she's trying to cut corners, she's trying to do things that he said not to do, and then she sets the Russian space station on fire. And then she gets into the like escape pod, and then the escape pod can't release, and then it's just a big old mess. And then she finally gets to the Chinese space station and then comes back down to Earth, and then gravity almost kills her because she almost drowns, and then she survives. And
I'm getting the feeling you didn't like this movie.
I don't think I liked it as much as you wanted me to like it.
I mean, okay, so yes, you got the basic plot correct. Ryan Stone, who's been asked by NASA to, she's developed this technology.
Me going, did Ryan Stone write this movie?
No,
not realizing that was her name.
That's her name.
Once again, did not learn anyone's name in this movie. It's George and Sandra.
Sure.
And Sharif.
It was, I think, Carl Kowalski, Andy Kowalski, or his last name was Kowalski. I just remember his last name.
Okay.
So, astronaut Kowalski and Stone. So she has only been recently enlisted by NASA because she has developed a technology that they're trying to add to their own satellite. And we find out that she is like she's the new girl. She trained for 6 months for this project. And they're about to go home. They're almost done. They get word that debris from a
Russian satellite, right?
A Russian satellite and a like sort of a crater created a chain reaction. And at first they said, just be mindful of it. It's not coming for you. And then it changed course quite quickly, and it cuts through their entire satellite and space station. The only two survivors are George and Sandra. And then at one point, they have to disconnect because, as you said, the pull is pulling him out, and he knows better that, one of them being able to survive is better than none of them.
Yeah.
So then the remainder of the movie is just her, and she is all alone up there trying desperately to figure this out on her own. But what we find out about her is that she had a child that died.
Which was really sad. Like she was just playing tag and fell and hit her head and died.
And it could, to me, it makes so much sense. A woman who literally has lost everything. You go into space, you go into the unknown because you have nothing left to lose. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
And, when she talks about at the beginning, like how she loves the quiet, because I'm sure her, and the more the movie goes on, the more we realize how much she hasn't been living on Earth since the death.
She just drives.
She just drives. She's on autopilot. So for her to overcome all of this, to find the will to survive and to find a path forward and to make it back to Earth, all within 90 minutes.
Oh, I did love that. How literally the movie it was in real time.
Yes. And if you know me at all, one of my biggest things is if you cannot tell your story in 90 minutes or less. I do. If you can't tell your story, and I'm talking movies, and I'm even talking theater as well. If you can't tell your story in 90 minutes or less, go back to the drawing board, y'all. Because what Alfonso Cuarón and Sandra do in this film, they create an entire story, an entire world. You learn everything you need to know about this person in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful story about survival. I freaking loved it. I loved it when it came out. It came out in 2013, just after I graduated college. And this was after Sandra Bullock. This was about 3 years after Sandra had won her Oscar for The Blind Side. And as much as I liked her in The Blind Side, that very much felt like she was being awarded for her entire body of work. Sometimes Oscars are awarded. I could argue the same thing with Will Smith winning last year. It's like this person's finally arrived after an incredible body of work, and we want to honor them. I wish they had waited a little longer, because I think Sandra's performance in this was her best, her career best, in my opinion.
Okay.
She did not win. She lost to Cate Blanchett for Blue Jasmine, which is arguably fair because Cate was quite good in that film.
Okay.
But I just thought she was so great. So I'm going to give some stats on the film real quick. Let me look at my notes. So directed by Alfonso Cuarón, written by Alfonso and his son, Jonas. And they actually did not set out to make a space movie. That's what is really interesting about this, is that they wanted to write a movie about survival. They wanted to write a movie about adversity and overcoming it. And so they were like, so they kind of wanted to write a script, and it could be put sort of anywhere, like in the middle of the desert with no water, in the middle of anywhere where the terrain is inhospitable. But then as they developed the script, the idea of putting it in space just seemed so obvious and so right. It took 4.5 years to make this movie. It was about a year to write the script, and then it took about 3 years to master the visual effects and to film it. What's crazy about this movie is that most of it is computer generated. Most of what you see in this movie is completely computer generated and created by the visual effects team and the incredible cinematographer. What's his name? Hold on, I have to get his name because he has won 3 Oscars for cinematography. Emmanuel Lubezki. And he is the cinematographer for The Three Amigos. So The Three Amigos, by the way, in cinema, The Three Amigos are Guillermo del Toro, Alejandro Inarritu, and Alfonso Cuarón.
Me going like, wait, The Three Caballeros, The Three Amigos, like that movie?
Not Steve Martin Short, and the other person. No. Oh my God. The Three Amigos of cinema.
Literally what I thought. I was like, oh, wait, I love that movie.
Highbrow, lowbrow. The Three Amigos of cinema are Guillermo del Toro, Alfonso Cuarón,
Steve Martin Short, I can't remember his last name,
and Alejandro Inarritu. And Emmanuel is their cinematographer, and he's won 3 Oscars in the last 10 years. He's incredible. So it took that much time to create the visual effects and to kind of get everything made for this movie. They actually created this thing called the light box. So it was a fixture of lights and kind of like a little kind of like encasing that Sandra would have to sit in. It was so hard to get into and out of that once she was in it, she was in it. And she sat in there for like 10 hours a day shooting.
That's wild.
And communicated with Alfonso over headset. And It cost $100 million to make. It made $723 million worldwide.
That's crazy.
Fun fact, Sandra was not the first choice for this film.
Who was?
Some of the major names that were floated around were Angelina Jolie, Marion Cotillard, Blake Lively, and Natalie Portman.
Okay, I have a take. I think Natalie Portman would have been better.
She was the one out of that list who I thought could have done the film, but I don't know. I really thought this was really a right pick for Sandra. And it was 8th highest grossing film of 2013. And it won 7 out of 10 Oscars, 6 out of 11 BAFTAs. It won 1 Golden Globe. Alfonso Cuarón won the DGA for directing when he went on to win the Oscar. It tied the PGA with 12 Years a Slave. And 12 Years a Slave is the film that won Best Picture that year, which beat Gravity. But Gravity took the most Oscars that year. I can't say enough good things about this film.
See, okay. I'm going to give you some takes now because
Okay.
all respect to Sandy, all respect to Alfonso and George and Emmanuel. It's beautifully done. It actually kind of spooked me a little bit. The internet and the computers are always listening and watching. I had to pause this movie a couple times, and when I came back, my screensaver was literally just like the Apple screensaver from space, and I was like, no. I was like, did I pause at this part? I don't remember this planet.
Nope.
But it was a horror. The moment I knew it was a horror film was when we saw Sharif's face completely, like a hole in his face, and then you're like, oh, it's fine. And then they get into the space station, and that woman is like floating frozen from the air. I was like, this is a horror movie.
But that's what would happen to you if
No, I know, but it was the
instant death.
Those were jump scares for me. But I don't know. It's a good movie. I'm not gonna say it was a bad movie. I just was like, I figured she was going to survive. I was stressed, but in my head, I was like, I know she's going to make it. And then when the ghost of George Clooney comes back, I was like, what is going on in here? But I get she has like no oxygen. She's seeing hallucinations.
She's dreaming.
And like his stuff. But like when the first door opens and like it's all that, I was like, what is going on here? It was weird. But, and yeah, I think it just annoyed me that she was so slow. I was just like, it was just a frustrating movie. And I think maybe that's...
You would have died in a minute.
No, I would have survived.
No. You would be dead. You would be so dead. Like,
but everything was... And like, she didn't check. She didn't
Again-
see the fire coming in. Everyone saw the fire coming in.
she's got a fucking 1,000 things to think about. And it wasn't fire. It was just spark. Like, as you can see, those... Like, even in the construction of the ship, those things are built contingencies upon contingencies upon contingencies. So, like, if that stuff happens, you lock yourself out of one portion.
And then you get to the next one. I get it. I
cannot believe you're not giving Sandy more credit.
I give Sandy a lot of credit.
No, I mean Ryan Stone.
Oh, Ryan Stone. Ugh. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I liked that it was real time. I thought it was really cheeky that at the end, like, she almost dies because she's like, the gravity of the ocean is pulling her down. And ocean is space, essentially. It's the on-land space.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know what goes down under there. But yeah, I'm glad she survived in the end. I loved when she like lands on the ground and like gets the sand and she's like, she could breathe her own air. I thought that was really beautiful. It's beautifully done. Don't get me wrong. It's just,
I don't think you were listening to like
her
personal life.
I was. And I was like, okay, your kid died. You went to space because of it. Like, it just felt like she was very, like, yeah, she was upset. But I was like, I don't know. It didn't hit me the way I think it should have.
Oh my God. When she, at the end, when she's talking to George and is like,
okay, that part
if you
got
see
me.
A little girl.
I found the red shoe. That got me. That did get me.
Come on.
That part was really good. That was emotional for me because she's like, I know you're going to meet her. She never has her hair. She's going to have messy hair. She was so worried about the red shoe. Just tell her it was under the bed. It was under the That part did get me. That was emotional. But the rest of the movie, I was just mad. I think I was just so mad that I couldn't get past that.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, I was so mad watching Norbit. It's fair.
Okay.
We're gonna get mad sometimes. Is there anything else you have to say about Gravity? 'Cause I think we mentioned it all.
I think I mentioned it all, and we'll do our highbrow and lowbrow moment of the movie.
Yeah, I did want to just
at
give a little
the
more
end.
info about like how the Academy Awards shaped out that year. So, yeah, I was like, Sandra, oh my God, like I remember wanting her to win so badly, but then I was like, but who else was nominated that year? It was a very good year for film. The other films nominated for Best Picture: 12 Years a Slave, which won. American Hustle, fabulous. Captain Phillips, fabulous. Dallas Buyers Club, fabulous. Gravity, fabulous. Her, which I think was my favorite movie of the year with
I
Joaquin
love
Phoenix.
Her.
Holy crap. Nebraska, fantastic. Philomena, fantastic. Wolf of Wall Street, fantastic. Like, bing, bang, boom. And then
I bet from that list you can tell which movies I've seen and which I haven't.
yes, it like all amazing films. And that Best Actress category was also stacked. Meryl Streep for August Osage County, Judi Dench for Philomena, Sandra Bullock for Gravity, Amy Adams American Hustle, and Kate Blanchett Blue Jasmine. Which, I mean, Kate was unbelievable. I would argue though, what Sandra did using her imagination.
Yeah,
That
okay.
is the true mark of an actor.
So
she
this
had
is-
to craft all of that in her head. And of course, she had her director, she had her team with her to paint a picture of what this was all going to look like. But that is acting.
Yeah.
Using what's inside here and going for it. Whereas Kate was amazing, but a lot of people compared that character in that Woody Allen film to Blanche DuBois in Streetcar Named Desire.
Okay.
Like a struggling Southern drunk.
Thank you for explaining to me because I've never seen
Right.
Streetcar
I was like,
Named
I
Desire.
need to kind of elaborate. But yeah, Gravity took home so many awards that year. Grad Alfonso won for director. He's won again since for Roma, which is another beautiful film that he's made. And I just, Sandra, I love her. And I think everything she's in, even All About Steven, which we'll get to it, she has this special spark that is just is really great.
I was actually watching this, and there was like a close up on her face with that short haircut when she was in the thing, and I was like, "Wait, am I Sandra Bullock?" I kind of looked like Sandra Bullock. I thought I was like, "Wait, do you see it? Do you see it?"
The haircut.
Space.
Okay. So I think that's a good like chunk about Gravity. Okay.
All right, all about Steve. So
okay.
this came out 2009.
Yes.
So I was a sophomore in high school when this came out, and I saw this movie. This was a movie I went to go see with my friends in theaters.
Yeah, I was about to graduate high school when this came out. Do you want me to start by?
Yeah, give me a little synopsis. Well, just tell me what the movie's about.
Okay. Well, we find a crossword puzzle author.
Which, by the way, she's from Sacramento, which I gotta represent. I'm from the Bay, And if you like it hyphy, we take it to the Bay. First go to Sacktown, we do it a day. This is why I'm hot. You don't remember that song?
No, I do. I'm just letting you.
Well, and it's also the Sacramento Bee, not the Sacramento Herald, but like.
Okay, they have to change some stuff. Okay.
But yeah, Sacktown. So, my family has a lot of history in Sacramento, so I was like represent.
All right. So Mary, we
Magdalene.
find Mary. She is a crossword puzzle writer for the Sacramento Herald. Mm-hmm. And she is peculiar. She has an interesting haircut. She has an interesting fashion style. You can tell she's highly intelligent. And she might have a lisp. It goes in and out. And basically what happens is that it's made clear to us by her that she is looking for love. She's highly intelligent and also highly sexual.
Yes.
And her parents set her up on a blind date. She goes on a blind date with a cameraman from a local news affiliate, played by Bradley Cooper, who looks fantastic in this film.
This is old Bradley.
This is before his nose job.
No,
and
he
before-
looks better in this than I think
No, he
anything
does.
else.
He looks he looks chef's kiss. So they go on a blind date that lasts about 15 minutes. Because Bradley quickly realizes that she's an oddball and he's not into it. He makes up a lie that he has to go. He's being called to breaking news in somewhere else, and he has to go. she, for whatever reason, so the next day she creates a crossword puzzle all about Steve, and all of the clues for the crossword are about Steve. The problem is that the greater Sacramento area doesn't know who Steve is. Everyone is confused and upset by the crossword, and even though it's established that her crossword doesn't really mean anything to the paper, she somehow has fucked up one time and is now fired. One mess up and she's fired. But I'm not done. So then she, doesn't have a job anymore, she decides to pursue love and to follow Steve where he goes for breaking news. Steve works for he and Ken Jeong, which I died.
Yeah, I think this was their first movie right before Hangover that they did together.
Or like it was the same time.
It was around. Hangover came out around the same time. I'm sure.
This was definitely the same time.
It's very weird that 2009 was when Hangover came out, and I was like, oh, weird.
Totally. So they both work for Thomas Hayden Church,
Hayden Christensen.
who's playing an anchor who's trying to move up, but he's also kind of the villain of the film. And long story short, Sandy follows him to, I think, 3 or 4 different states, seemingly like that. Time doesn't really exist in this film because it seems within the course of 2 days, they hop from state to state. No problem. We never see nightfall in this film. Not once do we see nightfall. I think at the end of the film, we see nightfall when she's stuck in the coal mine. Yes, Sandy gets stuck in a coal mine. So that brings us to the end of the film, where the last location that Sandy follows Bradley to, she falls in a coal mine. She saves a deaf child.
Who gets no name. They just call her little deaf
girl
the whole time.
So yeah, that's basically the plot. Bradley and her don't end up together. She makes some friends along the way, and I suppose the moral of the film is find your people, find your community, find the people who are normal for you. So yeah, it was not as let me tell you, this went down way easier than Norbit. Holy crap, this went down way easier than that.
I'm glad.
And I see. And as we go through it, I have tons of notes. Unlike Norbit, I took notes like crazy. I do see the pearls of why someone like Sandra would read this and go, "Oh, I want to do this." There's a lot of sweet things in here, but I think it really missed the mark, and it's an uncomfortable watch.
Okay, I have some things to say. First of all, Gibby from iCarly, for those fans out there, he has a little cameo, has a speaking part right at the beginning.
Who?
Gibby, remember from iCarly? Gibby.
Oh,
he's
no.
like shirtless and I'm Gibby.
I didn't watch iCarly because,
Well, so for all you iCarly fans out there, Gibby has an appearance at the very beginning, so that was fun. I literally wrote back when Bradley Cooper was cute. Yeah,
right?
So here's my thing. This movie, which Sandra won the Razzie for, and she accepted, and I watched the speech, which I'm going to talk to you about. Watching this movie again and seeing how Mary Magdalene Horowitz was, going through.
That's her full name?
Mary Magdalene Horowitz, yes, is her full name. She reveals that. It made me realize a little bit like why I like movies like this and Norbit, and I think this is why I was crying, because at the end she's basically like, he was my ticket to normal, and the deaf girl's like, why do you want to be normal? And she's like, and that was like her aha moment. Also, she's able to read the sign language, but she's not signing back to the girl in the coal mine. She's just speaking to her and having this little girl read lips when clearly she understands sign language. So why can't you sign it back? So that was an issue for me. But
one of the many.
But I like seeing these. I think because I've always felt like the underdog. I've always felt like the one who's not normal. That when I watch movies like this where like the person who's kind of the outcast becomes the hero, it really hits me somewhere. And just seeing them find themselves and find their power. And then this time she finds the power through her like buddies that she meets when she's doing the news run for Three Leggy Peggy, the baby that's going to be born with 3 legs.
Let's go back to that real quick. So I hold on. I got to get to my notes. So, yes, again, I'm just so surprised how we get from Sacramento to Tucson to Oklahoma City to Colorado so fucking quickly. We literally jump from state to state like we have a time warp that no one else is aware of. It's wild to me. She at one point gets picked up by a trucker
Yes.
who doesn't rape her, thank God, implying that all truckers are rapists. It was very bizarre. My favorite quote. I bet my left ovary that doctor right there is not a doctor. But yeah, apparently there is a three-legged child, and there's a big debate over whether the leg should be removed or not removed. There's a big debate over whether you're pro-leg or anti-leg.
And that's how she meets her pro-leg people, her friends.
Her pro-leg friends. And she ends up going like on a little like road trip with two of them. While they're driving, they hit a motherfucking tornado and somehow survive. And then again, we somehow find ourselves in an abandoned mine shaft where the deaf children are.
Okay, let me break a couple things down for you. So, first of all, I'm pro-leg.
I mean, so am I.
Because Sandy makes a really great point. Mary Magdalene in the movie, she goes, if the leg is a fully like if can work,
fully
then that's a medical miracle. Like we need to keep the leg, but if it's not, then we need to remove the leg. So she's pro-leg. She meets Katie Mixon.
Oh wait, did you remember the save the leg, my lord, save the leg? Well, just lightly peppered in the background as if you almost can't hear it, but I caught it.
All of those people who are like pro-leg people, these are all like you have Lunel, one of the best comedians of all time.
Yeah.
You've got Katie Mixon from American Housewife, which if you never watched American Housewife on ABC, Katie Mixon is a icon. It is one of the funniest sitcoms that has been around. I love American Housewife. She's so good in it. And seeing her in this, I was like, oh, she's perfect for this role. She's like the friend that wears the crochet stuff. Right. You've got that famous actor. I can't remember his name, but he was in everything. Like the skinny pinhead kid.
Yeah, like not Do Where's My Car, but like Tom Green. He's like on all those Tom Green movies.
And I love his thing. He carves apples to look like celebrities. So he rots apples and carves them. So the two he has in his car,
was fucking wild.
Mother Teresa and Clay Aiken. I was like, Clay Aiken, this is a throwback because who remembers Clay Aiken? Literally 2009. That was like when it was a moment. But like, okay, if we want to talk about how they got from place to place. So she's basically following the news van as it's going from place to place. So she goes from California, then she flies to Tucson to get to Tucson for whatever.
She flies?
I'm assuming. Because then she flies because she doesn't have a car because she gets there. And no, she doesn't fly. Remember, she takes the bus to the
trucker. And then the trucker takes her. And then they have, I'm not going to rape you. Thanks for not raping me. Yes.
So the trucker gets her to Tucson.
But again, it seems like that drive took an hour. The time of day doesn't change.
Okay, well, she obviously went to bed. Like, you have to...
That's what I'm saying.
You have to give it some grace. They can't just show, like, oh, she's been traveling for 14 hours.
No, that's not.
Okay, so then when she gets there, that's when her two buddies are like, well, we'll drive you down to Texas. And they're like, cool. So they drive to Texas, and then they save themselves by sitting in the storm drain because he's like, this is a storm drain. We can be safe in here. Like, their own smarts help them realize that they can survive. And also the cicadas are there, and they love cicadas, and they're trying to go see the cicada thing. So that's when they're in Galveston, Texas.
Arizona, Texas.
Yeah. That's like a 2-day drive.
Exactly. They don't establish the passage of time is what I'm trying to say. Okay, well, they never establish
Remember how you tell me sometimes you just got to let the movie, like, you just got to believe? You just got to believe.
No, I say that it's the movie's job to establish solid circumstances for you so that you can be taken on a ride.
Okay, well, I was taken on a ride.
Clearly.
But yeah. But so then, I mean, basically what happens is like a bunch of these deaf kids fall into like they're going to the park or like some fair, and there's a sinkhole that opens to a mine, and they think they get all the kids, and then Mary's trying to literally just run to go see Bradley Cooper, not realizing there's the giant hole there, and falls into the hole herself.
Which, by the way, she would have absolutely died.
Well,
falling. I mean, all those kids would have died. Number one. Number two, she would have, as they showed in the simulation, she would have ping-ponged like literally all the way down, hitting her head hard on the rocks and would have bled out.
Suspend reality. Believe the movie. So, I mean, and then she gets out because she realizes, she's like, oh my God, if we counterbalance the weight with this like mine cart and let it go, then we'll be good. But then she has it all set up to go, and then Hayden Christensen has to like throw himself in. Because he's like, oh, I'll just take the fire hose, which, as the son of a firefighter, unless those things are hooked in, it's not going to go any, like, you're obviously going to detach. And so she has to recalibrate to get him back up too. And then she saves the day with everyone.
So I want to talk about Thomas Hayden Church's character, because he's sort of the villain of this movie. Like, for seemingly no reason, he finds out that Bradley Cooper's character is getting stalked by Mary. And for seemingly no reason, like, I thought maybe he wanted to like juice up like a story he could use to get promoted, because his ambitions are to be an anchor. But then seemingly just because he feels like messing with his cameraman, he tricks Mary into thinking that Bradley Cooper wants her to actually be there when she doesn't. He sends her on this wild goose chase. He pulls that stunt, saving her, even though Mary is completely, totally the only savior in the film. And yet he wins at the end of the day. He gets promoted. And like, I hate that he's the bad guy. He gets to win.
Well, the reason he wants her to come along and follow at the beginning from Tucson to Galveston is because she knows things, and she's feeding them information about she finds the guy, the dad, and she's like, that's not a dad, like, that's not a nurse, he's not wearing protective footwear. And then they're able to get that shot, and then she mentions like two more things that they use on the newscast. So in my head, I'm thinking he wants to keep using her. He knows she's an asset, and that's going to be his like jump ahead, is he gets her information.
That was not established at all.
I caught that. So maybe
he didn't say anything about that. He did not at all. Okay. He literally just got so excited about the fact that what's-his-face was getting stalked, and then he goes to mess with her.
Okay, well, I caught that.
It's bizarre.
I caught that.
Also, one line he said, oh my God, you rest those pretty little mouth pillows. Ugh!
Oh, mouth pillows.
Oh my God.
I remember
I wrote that in
pillows.
all caps being like, what a quote. You rest those pretty little mouth pillows. Like, blah, 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 blah. Oh my God. But like I said though, I wrote a couple things down.
Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say, because then I'm going to talk about the Razzie and her Razzie
but
speech.
LOL, her parents live in the Brady Bunch house.
Yeah.
Just wanted to point that out.
Which is not in Sacramento.
A quote that made me laugh out loud at the beginning was the dad saying, telling his wife, if you want to see any grandchildren, you better burn those goddamn boots.
Which also made me mad, because her boots it's like her prized possession. But when the police are dragging her away in Tucson, she's literally scratching her boots on the pavement. Yes. But the boots are a big deal. Everyone loves the boots.
And the pro leg people, did they not remind you of the crab catchers from 30 Rock?
Yes.
Very much Floridian vibes. And I died. Yeah, Mary would have died if she fell in the hole. I wrote that a couple times. Like, again, she'd be dead. She would be dead. But here's where, like, if I were to pick the highbrow moment of this film, it was Bradley's speech at the end.
Yes.
When he's like, she's kind, she sees things other people don't, and she shouldn't, like, I'm the problem. He realizes, like, he's the issue, which I thought was very, very sweet. And again, the sentiments that come at the end, like, words matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish they had created more nuance between, like, how she's so meticulous about the words she picks in her crosswords, and how the words that he uses with her are so important, and that, like, words matter and that she takes them seriously. Like, that I thought was so nice. LOL, her quote, I'm Jewish Catholic, I'm pretty much set in stone. Thought that was hilarious. But we have a natural compulsion to fill empty spaces. I thought that was really sweet. And on the journey of life, find someone as normal as you. Like, there are gems in there, but they did not thread that needle. And when I Googled this movie just to find out, like, response, the response was not good. And you'll get into this in a second. But a lot of people were offended, especially the neurodivergent community was really offended, because people on the spectrum were saying that there was maybe a movie here for us. There was maybe a movie here for someone like people who have Asperger's, people who maybe have autism. But they never explicitly say that Sandy has these these conditions.
Yeah.
And they never like. It could have been a really beautiful film about that, or it shouldn't have been at all. And it should have. They muddied the water so much that it ended up coming off offensive. And I totally get why.
Yeah.
But again, it was those little gems at the end that made me go, I see why reading the script, someone goes, you know what, there's a heart here that I want to get to.
And I think that's why it made me cry, is because all of those things at the end, it's like, that's why I liked this movie when I first watched it, is because I always felt like I'm not normal. I don't have like, you know what I mean? And it's like when Bradley's like, no, I'm the problem. Like, you're perfect just the way you are. And she realizes that, like, she's like, no, these are my people. I don't need to just be like banging guys left and right to fill that hole.
Yeah, she is ready to have sex.
Well, literally, like, the first thing she's like, I might not have a boyfriend, but I've had liaisons before.
Well, and she tells the fireman that she's never met before, like, it's been a while since I've woohoo. Woohoo.
Which is all she like, which is what she, I think is, she's like, I need to just be hot and sexy and like just be this person to be, that's normal. But my brain, like my body is what people are going to be after.
You know who I
when
thought
it really is my brain.
would have been perfect for this?
Who?
Anna Faris.
I think so too. I don't think Sandra was the perfect choice for this movie.
She was not.
But there is a good movie here. It has a lot of heart. And so Sandra Bullock won the Razzie for Worst Actress of the Year for All About Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And she accepted the award. She came and
Which I
accepted
love.
the award. And she brought a full, what is it called, wagon. And she's like, I brought a copy of All About Steve for everyone here. I also have the script if anyone wants to read it. And she goes, and these three people worked on the movie and they worked their butts off on this movie. And she was like, evidently this is an award for like the worst whatever, like film and worst actress. But clearly none of you watched the movie because it's not a bad movie. And that's why I brought everyone a copy and I brought the script, because if everyone just watches it again, you can return this. I can return this award back to you next year and you can nominate and choose someone else because this isn't a bad movie. And I 100% agree with her. Like, this didn't deserve the hate. I think it's because I don't think Thomas Hayden Church should have been the villain. I think it should have just been Bradley the whole time. I think it should have been clear that Thomas Hayden's character was just using her for her brains to kind of get himself ahead, because that's really what he was using for. And he was capitalizing on the fact that she loved him because he couldn't convince her to come any other way. I mean, unless he offered her a job, which he couldn't. So he's like, let's just keep her following Bradley. And like, it's also like me making fun of him kind of thing. I think if it was just tweaked a little bit, and it would have been better. And we didn't really need the whole Galveston, Texas part. It should have just gone from Tucson straight to.
That's the problem, is that this movie was an hour and a half and it could have been 45 minutes. But then it's not a movie.
Yeah, but I
think for me, there was not enough movie here.
There should have been a little bit more at the beginning to establish her backstory, who she was, maybe her growing up, maybe kind of like a Norbit situation where it's like, this is how I grew up. I love crosswords, words matter, blah, 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 all this stuff. And it kind of shows how her whole life she's fallen back to the words she can find because boys don't want the words, and then that's why she's so sexual.
Well, I'm immediately thinking of one of her other films, Miss Congeniality. They do this in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They show a clip of her childhood where she's the tough, scrappy girl that has to just fight her way through life. Boom, fast forward to when she's adult, and it's still the same story.
Has the burger on her frickin' shirt.
Yeah, more of an establishment of who she was would have helped.
Yeah.
Making her more of a nerd or something, and kind of putting making her more of a nerd and making it less confusing as to what her state of mind was, I think would have been better.
I mean, there's a good movie here. I mean,
and she accepted her Oscar the very next day, right?
No, I know, yeah. Which I love.
For The Blind Side.
So my thing is like, I would remake this movie again. I think I could remake this movie again.
It is a movie
today.
that I think there's enough here that if a good team got behind it, they could make something.
And I think if they leaned more into the neurodivergency of it, and like maybe got a neurodivergent actor or actress to play this role, I think it also could have been. I also can see this being like a queer film. I think that could be also.
Totally.
And I could see her. I rewatching again, I thought her and Katie Mixon were going to end up together at the end. I thought Katie Mixon was in love with her.
Oh, LOL.
And I thought they were going to end. I was like, that actually would be a better story, is she's trying to be normal and then she realizes, oh my gosh, everything's backwards. I actually love you. Or like, that's the thing, is I wanted there to be more like,
she's trying so hard for this imaginary life with Bradley that she knows nothing about, and yet she has friends right here that are giving her everything she needs. And I kind of want there to be a conflict of her friends being like, what is so great about him when you have people like us that are here for you, that accept you for who you are?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
they were just kind of tag along, and like, they weren't utilized.
But I do like at the end where she's like, all that's standing between us is a fence. You have all of that, but look what Mary has here. And I thought that was a really beautiful moment.
I loved that moment.
That's when you walked in on me, and I was like literally like crying.
Like,
I was
look
like,
at the
don't
mess she
look at
made
me.
and look at the community she has. But again, like, they didn't establish for me how she got that community.
It was just because of the news, because everyone wanted her to survive on the news. Like, everyone rallies around that one person. You want them to survive. You want them to win.
But her making that crossword putt, like, I wanted that to get kind of brought back. Like, it's just a lot of loose ends and a lot of things that weren't connected.
Yeah, I would.
Because you know that rule: if you introduce something in the first act, you have to bring it back in the third. Like, you know, it's.
And then what they tried to with Words Matter, but you know, you win some, you lose some. But no, I think this movie could be made again today. Definitely. I think we would just have to change it up a little bit. I think there's a good movie here. Like, I'm like actually inspired to make.
It's so funny that you're like, oh yeah, I believe all of this, and then yet Sandy's moving too fast for you in space.
She was moving too slow for me in space. She was too slow for me. But because look how quickly she could get from Tucson to Galveston, Texas. And you're telling me she can't turn the wheel a little bit faster than this? The whole movie of Gravity?
Okay, we're going to shove you in one of Elon Musk's jets, and we're going to see how you fare up there.
You know what? None of those people are getting 6 months of training. I'm worried about them. Not really.
Well, because they're not really penetrating the atmosphere. They're just doing a little.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm never going into space.
I would never recommend that for you. Ever.
I just don't think it's for me.
No. Any more stats on this film? Like, do you know how much it made, or do you care?
I don't care. I never do that. I'm just more about the vibes of the movie.
Oh no, I like stats. So you're always gonna get more stats.
You're gonna get stats from you. You're gonna get vibes from me, yo. But yeah, no, there's a movie here. There's a really good movie here. And
I love when Mary read them for filth, when she sent up that letter being like, you spelled this word wrong and I'm totally fine. And
no, they say something. They get the definition of the word wrong.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, this is actually the word. This is what you mean. And they're like, and I'm okay.
I love that.
She's cute. But yeah, I agree with Sandra. I'm calling her by her full name, Sandra Bullock. I agree with her when she accepted the Razzie and said, y'all didn't watch this movie. If you would watch this movie, this isn't the worst movie that was out there. And wait, by the way, fun fact. Before she accepted the Razzie, they said Sandra Bullock's name, and this guy comes out and he goes, whoa, I just gotta hold up. I gotta tell you, Beyonce had the worst performance of the entire year.
She was nominated.
Which she was nominated for Obsessed, which is another movie that
Unforgettable.
Wasn't that bad? I think it's Obsessed.
I think it's Unforgettable. You wanna look it up?
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay. But while you're looking it up, I do want to mention, like, I agree with that. Like, I just skimmed over the list for the Razzies because I knew you were going to cover it, but Transformers was way worse and it won, thank God.
It's called Obsessed. With Ali Lauder? I forget. I just know her from Heroes.
Unforgettable. I'm sorry. Unforgettable is Rosario Dawson and Katherine Heigl.
Okay, because this movie is literally about...
They're the same film. Obsessed and Unforgettable are basically the same film.
Obsessed is a fun movie, though.
But I agree. There were other actors in that. Like, I think isn't Miley Cyrus on there too?
Oh, Miley Cyrus was on there for the Hannah Montana movie, which was a great movie.
There were other actors in that category who were worse. So I don't think she should have. I get her and Bradley winning best worst on-screen couple. I agree with that.
And she goes, no shit, obviously, because I was stalking him in case you did not watch the movie. So, of course, we're going to be the worst couple.
Yes. But I'm glad that Transformers, Michael Bay won worst director. Like, I'm glad that Revenge of the Fallen swept because that movie is a bunch of fucking noise.
But yeah, so I stand by Sandra.
All right. So, with Gravity, how many Eddies do you give it?
Well, let me do my highbrow and lowbrow moment first of the movie.
Oh, okay.
Before we get into what I'm going to rate it, because I do want to talk about.
Oh, and I guess I have to do my highbrow.
And you have to do your highbrow. Yeah, but before we rate, so for Gravity, my highbrow moment probably had to be.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, I have to say, honestly, the cinematography and just like how beautifully it was shot. I can't choose like a part in the movie that I thought was highbrow, but I think the fact that they were able to do all of this, like you said, on like a green screen essentially, and it was all a computer animated in a light box.
81 minutes of the 90-minute film are computer generated.
That's impressive to me. That's going to be my highbrow moment, even though it's not a moment in the movie. That's my highbrow, I guess, situation. And my lowbrow moment,
the guy with his face.
no, it was the lowbrow moment is like the fire starting and her being like, "What's that?" And then being like having to like figure it out. I hated that. I thought that was so stupid. That's
so upset.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to upset you on this podcast, but that's how I feel.
Okay.
And what's your highbrow and lowbrow moment? And then we'll do our ratings.
Do I do of All About Steve?
All About Steve.
Well, the highbrow moment I think was the end. It was Bradley Cooper's speech and these the gems that popped out of like words matter. We have a natural compulsion to fill empty spaces. Like that was very sweet, and I wanted them to kind of like, if I had been the producer, I'm like, okay, so scrap this whole movie except for this. This is what the movie should be about. Write a whole new script. And the lowbrow moment, I mean,
take your pick.
Take my pick. I mean, I think her in the truck drive, her driving with the truck driver, and her being like, "Thanks for not raping me."
Okay.
Yeah. There were just a lot of one-liners like that. It was amazing to me that Ken was not the most offensive part of this film. Because usually when Ken's in anything, he's so loud,
was
obnoxious.
Really endearing.
No, he was like the center of the film.
Yes.
Which is like, he never gets cast to do that. So good on you, Ken. Yeah, it went down way easier than Norbit. So It's going to get a higher score than Norbit for sure.
Okay. Awesome. Do you want my rating?
Give me your Eddie rating for Gravity.
So Gravity, I give 3.5 Eddies out of 5.
Okay. Not even 4.
No, because I feel like 4 would be giving it too much. I think it's 3.5 Eddies.
Okay.
It's not a 5. It's not a 4.
Okay.
It's 3.5.
Well, Norbit was 1. So nothing can be worse than that right now. I'm going to give it 2.5.
Okay.
Matthews. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it wasn't great. But I actually enjoyed watching it. It's weird. Like, I enjoyed watching it, but I recognized, like, oh, this is a very flawed film.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't. I mean,
when you have something like Sandra Bullock, it's like, it's gonna be at very least like a solid. She's gonna make as much lemonade as she can muster.
Yeah, I love her. I
love her
really
too.
do.
So do you want to announce our next week's actor?
Yes.
And
so
the movies?
Our actor, this is going to be a kind of fun one next week. And
we kind of wanted to do the next two. We kind of wanted to give a little bit of spookiness because it's Halloween. So this next one, I think we give a little bit of camp, a little bit of spook.
And our actor is Michael Keaton. Emmy Award winning from Dope Sick.
And Oscar winning for one of the films we're doing. The highbrow film will be Birdman, which honestly, it's like in my top 3 favorite movies of all time.
And I've been lying to Matthew for the last 5 years and telling him that I've seen Birdman when I have actually never seen the movie. So this is going to be a first watch for me. He literally was like, "You've seen Birdman, right?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I don't want to have to like... I want to have to do what he's going to do to me now, which is
brilliant.
Give me a lecture for about 20 minutes about why I need to watch Birdman. And then the next time I say, "Oh yeah,
filmed by one of the 3 amigos, not Steve Martin, not Martin Short, but Alejandro Inarritu.
And my lowbrow movie is Batman.
The OG Batman.
The OG Batman with Michael Keaton, which is considered lowbrow, but I love Batman.
And
so.
Again, we're Halloween. We figured it's a little Halloween for you.
Yeah,
a little spooky.
People dress up as Batman for Halloween.
Yes.
And he's the Dark Knight. So spooky dooky. Bats. Friggin' bats. Remember
Thank you so much for joining us for episode 2 of Highbrow Lowbrow. If you aren't already, please subscribe on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok.
Our handle is Highbrow Lowbrow Pod, at Highbrow Lowbrow Pod on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
And like, rate, and review us wherever you subscribe to podcasts, whether that's SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iTunes, or Spotify. And we'll see you next Friday with Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, Birdman, and Batman. Adios.
Bye.